All right, let's get into this. It's an incredible story, really, about how a complete chance encounter on a miserable rainy day ended up creating a culinary legend that people are still talking about centuries later. You've got a powerful emperor, a totally desperate chef, and a meal made from, well, scraps that literally changed history.
So first, let's meet our main character. We're talking about the 18th century Qianlong Emperor. Now this guy, he ruled over a massive empire, but he was also this huge travel buff and poet. And he had this, quirky little hobby. He loved to put his official stamp on everything he liked. Art, poems, you name it. It got him this hilarious nickname, the Stamp Maniac.
Okay, so our story kicks off about 16 years into his reign. He's visiting the beautiful city of Hangzhou, and he decides, you know what, I'm ditching my entourage. He wants to see the real city, so he disguises himself as just some wealthy traveler out for a stroll.
He's going by the name Mr. Gao, just enjoying the views from Wu Mountain. But his perfect afternoon is about to get, well, completely washed out. What starts as a little drizzle turns into an absolute downpour. The emperor and his guards are soaked to the bone, they're cold, and most importantly, they are desperately, desperately hungry.
So where do they end up? They stumble into this tiny little shop. And that brings us to our second main character, the owner, Wang Xiaoer. And believe me, on this particular rainy day, he was having a crisis of his own.
His little place was called Wangrun Xing, but it was barely a shop at all. The story actually describes it as being poor to the point of glowing. I mean, what a phrase. It was a place with next to nothing, and because of the storm, he'd had 0 customers. Even worse, his rice jar was empty. His vegetable basket was empty. The man had absolutely nothing left to cook. And this is where the story gets so good, right? You just have to appreciate the contrast. On one side, you have the most powerful man in the entire empire, a guy used to unbelievable feasts. And on the other, you have a humble cook who doesn't even have a grain of rice to his name. These two worlds are on a collision course, all because of a bowl of food.
Now Wang Xiaoer sees this finely dressed but totally miserable Mr. Gao, and he just knows he can't turn him away. So he makes a pretty gutsy decision. He has to cook something for them, even if it means scraping the absolute bottom of the barrel. So he basically tears his kitchen apart in this frantic search for anything. And this is it. This is all he's got. The kitchen's treasures, right? A big fish head, the part that usually gets thrown out, a couple blocks of old tofu, some ginger, a little pork lard, and a jar of his own homemade bean paste. That's it. These humble scraps were all he had to work with. So what does he do with this stuff? This is where the magic happens. He sears that fish head in hot lard until it's crispy. He fries up the ginger and bean paste to build this amazing, fragrant base. Then he throws it all into this super old, beat-up, cracked clay pot with some spring water. This wasn't a recipe. This was pure, desperate innovation. And get this. This is my favorite part. It shows you the genius behind what he was doing. He didn't just slice the tofu. No, he broke it apart with his hands. Why? Because all those rough, uneven surfaces would act like a sponge, soaking up every single drop of that incredible broth. It wasn't just random cooking. It was pure, resourceful brilliance.
Meanwhile, back in the tiny dining area, this powerful, almost wild aroma starts to fill the room. It's not the fancy, delicate scent of the palace kitchens. Nope. This was something earthy, bold, and totally intoxicating. The emperor, as hungry as he was, knew something special was on its way.
And the presentation? Oh, it was anything but royal. The dish shows up in this blackened, ugly, cracked old pot. But inside, this rich, milky white broth is bubbling like crazy, with these big chunks of tender fish and what looked like little pieces of white jade. The sight and the smell were just completely captivating. The emperor is starving, right? He grabs a spoon, takes one sip of the broth, and boom, any doubt he had just vanishes. The flavor was just profound. It was a wild, delicious taste he'd never had before. He bites into a piece of tofu, and the hot, savory broth just explodes in his mouth. Marvelous, he yells. Simply marvelous. After he and his guards pretty much inhale the entire pot, he asks the chef, "What is this dish called?" And Wang Xiaoer just admits, it doesn't have a name. I just made it up from leftovers. The emperor is so delighted, he declares that a meal this good must have a name. And right there, he christens it himself. Huang Funner, which means the emperor's meal. So as you can imagine, the dish, now with a royal stamp of approval, becomes an overnight sensation in Hangzhou.
But the story's legacy, why we're still talking about it, goes so much deeper than just one recipe. It's stuck around for a very good reason.
I mean, really think about it. Why has this little story about a rainy afternoon been told and retold for hundreds of years? What is it about this encounter that makes it more than just a cool historical fact? What can we actually learn from it today?
Well, I think this story lasts because it teaches 3 really powerful lessons that have nothing and everything to do with cooking. First, that real genius often sparks when your back is against the wall. Second, that the simplest things can bring the most incredible comfort. And third, that a fantastic story is the secret ingredient that turns something ordinary into something legendary.
And you want proof of that first lesson, the one about scarcity? When the emperor got back to the palace, he told his master chefs, "You have to make me that dish." They tried everything. They used the finest fish, the most expensive spices, the freshest tofu, and they failed every single time. The taste just wasn't right. It wasn't until they went out and found an old, cracked clay pot, just like Wang Shao'er's, that they finally nailed it. The magic wasn't in the fancy stuff. It was baked right into its humble origin.
And that's really the big takeaway here, isn't it? These lessons are for all of us. If you're a creator, it's a reminder that the best work comes from your heart and your resourcefulness, not your budget. If you're an entrepreneur, it shows that your discarded fish head, that one asset nobody else sees value in, could be your ticket to success. And for every single one of us, it's just a beautiful story about the simple, undeniable power of a warm meal on a cold, rainy day.
So I'll just leave you with this one question to think about. What's the overlooked resource in your life? What's the discarded idea or the simple skill you have that, with a little bit of heart and a little creativity, you could turn into something truly incredible?